This is Brian Waller, Zoning Board of Appeals Chair. As a preliminary matter, we'll start by confirming that the remote members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans?
Yes.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Biswas?
Yes.
Mr. Adams is
Yes.
in the room. Ms. Koshavos is in
Yes.
the room. And Mr. Berger?
Mr. Berger's here.
Thank you. We'll do the applicants as we get to them. Good evening. It is 7:06 p.m. This open meeting of the Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted both remotely and in person, consistent with the legislative acts of 2021, Chapter 20, Section 20, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This meeting is convening by a Zoom video conference as posted on the meeting agenda, which can be found on the Town of Grafton website. Please see the meeting agenda for details on how to participate remotely. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. All participation within this meeting will be visible to others. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording of this meeting, and that the recording may be published or rebroadcast at a later date. This meeting will feature public comment. To request acknowledgement to speak, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. The meeting administrator will enable you to speak when it is your turn. For those on the phone exclusively, the AV staff will coordinate with the meeting administrator to allow you to speak. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be done on a roll call vote. So we have one new case this evening and two cases continued from the prior meeting. We'll start with the two continued cases and with 147 Main Street. And I believe we have Mr. Forkey.
That's correct. I'm online. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Is my attorney in the room or no?
No.
No. Okay.
Do you want us to come back to you?
No, that's fine. I guess we can.
There's three attendees. One of them's the attorney for 50 Potter Hill, and then two others. One's Zilembo, and then the other's just a phone number showing. Do we know who those people are, Katrina, by any chance?
No, but I can ask.
No, there's a Steve P. who just joined, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Andy. I just don't know if maybe his attorney is one of those folks.
This would have been Don O'Neill. That's fine. We can continue. So there should be some documentation.
So hold
Excuse me, this is Don O'Neill. I am on the phone as well.
Okay, so you're the 978-724 number?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure because I'm allowing you to talk. Okay.
Sure. Okay. So we're here as a continuation from our last appearance before you, and at that time there was a request that we provide documentation as to the driveway access on the property, which is by way of a shared easement, and we have submitted a driveway agreement, shared maintenance agreement with the abutting property at 145 Main Street, and also have submitted an updated plot plan which shows the driveway area and also shows the dimensions in terms of the building and its placement with respect to the driveway. We're showing in the front left corner 4 feet, and then it out to 5 feet to the rear of the property. It's not directly in line with the driveway, but the easement that we provided is basically for a 10-foot wide access easement, 5 feet on either side, and that's other than the front left-hand corner. That's what is indicated with respect to the survey plan and also the easement on record. So I think that was the only issue that was left outstanding from the last hearing. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Is there any comments from the board?
Do we have a copy of that?
No, I emailed
Yes,
it.
it was submitted Tuesday morning.
I mean, you printed it out.
I did not print.
Or you can print it
I
out.
can't print it out.
Yeah, I don't need it now.
Yeah,
I-
actually, I'm in the wrong file. Yes, I can. Let me see if I have it in here, Peter. Actually, I have it in here, Peter, if you want to see it. And I pulled up the wrong one on there. Here, Brian. And I pulled up the wrong one, so let me get back into.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Yeoman?
do we have a copy of that easement as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And if I could, while you were looking that up, the easement was executed in 2008. I think it would have been at the time of the transfer of, not to Mr. Forkey, but I think his predecessor in title. It's recorded in book 42564, page 293.
You want to look at it?
Oh, here it is. I just didn't go far enough to share.
So I haven't read through the easement.
Here's the easement if you want to see it. Sorry, I thought I sent that to you guys.
I'm looking at it online. But
That's all right. You'll be better with that than me.
is there any
If I
comments
could,
from-
third paragraph on page 1, I think, probably clarifies pretty specifically what the rights are with respect to the property. And the rest of it pretty much relates to shared responsibility for maintenance and upkeep and so forth.
Okay, so it's an easement for a 5-foot strip of land to ensure the 10-foot.
Yeah, it's set up for 5 feet on either side of the property line, and we are showing in the front corner the spheres come up with 4 feet, but the pavement is actually wider than that. And other than once you get past that corner, it's you've got the 10 feet before that, and then the 10 feet pretty quickly after that, going back to the rear of the property.
Any comments or questions from the board?
I did a little research. I called a friend of mine that was friendly with the neighbor years ago, back in the 70s, and all she could tell me was that she thought the daughter had moved in with either a boyfriend or a husband and were living there. Also, so that really didn't mean anything because they could have just been living in the house with their parents. But I did go to the fire department because I was curious when it sold, it would have had a fire alarm inspection. And I got a copy of their report. And this is in 14, March 25th, 2014. And they list it as a single-family house. So that confuses me even more. And the fire inspector has since retired, but he was pretty thorough. And I think he would have picked up on a duplex. So, I even asked him, because he lives down the street from me actually, and I saw him in his yard. And I asked him what our criteria, and he even said if there was 2 kitchens, that wouldn't make it a duplex, or that type of a thing. I didn't get what his whole criteria would be for a duplex, but so this bothers me a little bit, I gotta admit.
So,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Mr. Chairman, if I could respond to that, we're seeking a special permit because in this zone, even a single family is a pre-existing non-conforming use. Single families are not allowed in the zone, nor are 2 families. So the request is a special permit to allow for a 2-family in this zone. We're not claiming that this is a legal 2-family currently and has been for forever. We're seeking your approval to permit it to be used as a 2-family. And we had explained last time that there had been some sort of in-law or apartment setup that was in place when my client purchased the property. And I think that the issue with the in-law apartment is that's only, it's limited to in-laws, not to generally as a 2-family. It would be for an in-law situation, and that currently doesn't exist. We're not claiming that. We're just seeking your approval, basically with what we've got, to allow for a 2-family in that location. We're not claiming that we have a 2-family. We're seeking your approval for a 2-family.
okay.
And the issue is that the single family is not allowed in that zone currently either. And the provision which allows for a modification of a pre-existing non-conforming use is a special permit. So our issue is we're requesting a special permit to allow for a 2-family, by special permit approved by you.
Mr. Chairman?
Was that Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Yes. I know I think we asked this last time we met, but I don't have those notes in front of me, unfortunately. How many parking spots are available for this parcel? I believe they're all behind the house, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and I'm not sure we designated them on them, but if you look at the plot plan, I mean, basically there's a huge area that's paved behind the building. There's well in excess of 4 spaces back there.
Yeah, so this is Jim, the owner of the property. There's at least 4 facing, I want to say, what would this be, the west side of the property. and then a 2-car garage, and then you could also fit 2 in front of the 2-car garage. So there's ample parking for at least 6 cars, 6 vehicles on the property.
Okay, thank you. No, actually, one other question. Does anyone on the board know? I believe this is not in the WSPOD, the Water Supply Protection Overlay District, but can anyone confirm?
I don't,
It is in the Water Supply Protection Overlay District. Per Bob's zoning
Okay.
determination, it is.
Okay. All right, so looking at the plot plan, is the footprint of the building changing?
No. Nor is the footprint of the parking area. It's all existing.
Okay.
any other questions or comments from the board?
One more.
Peter?
So the argument or the statement is because the house is in the wrong zone and it's a single family, but that's not allowed, we want to change it to a 2-family, a duplex.
No, it couldn't be a
Well,
duplex either.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Berger.
so, Mr. Adams, if you read my zoning determination, and I don't have it in front of me, but I think item number 1 on the zoning determination is the house was built in 1955. And I think it talks about single-family dwelling units are not allowed in that zoning district. So with that being said, in order to change a pre-existing non-conforming use to another pre-existing non-conforming use or another use, it would be under 3435, would be a special permit. And that's what the attorney is arguing right now. It's a single family house now, in my eyes, as the zoning enforcement officer, and that's not allowed. In a 2-family under number 2, that's also not allowed. But in order for them to get it, they are allowed to seek relief through the zoning board of appeals through a special permit under 3435. And Katrina has it up right now. And that's your zoning determination that I submitted, I think, on July 1st to the board to review.
June 3rd, actually.
yeah, and Mr. Chairman, if I could follow up on that, just that the issue with if you have a pre-existing non-conforming use, but under the bylaw and also by state statute, you're allowed to modify or change that by special permit. And the issue there becomes is what you're proposing more detrimental in any way than the existing nonconformity. And I would point out that in the zone that you're in, and if it were an apartment building, actually it would be allowed. Single and 2-family are not allowed, but if it were multifamily, I believe it would be allowed. So, in fact, in a kind of a strange kind of way, by making it a 2-family as opposed to a 1-family, you're actually making it more conforming with zoning, which favors more of a multifamily situation because of the business zone than a strictly you might have in a single family area. And I think that area, if you look around it, there are commercial uses in and around the property that really don't, that you wouldn't necessarily expect to see in a single family neighborhood area. So what we're asking for is to make it a 2-family, and I would submit really that the issue there is we're not changing the building, not making it bigger, not doing anything other than just utilizing the existing space. And to my mind, the issue would be, do you have adequate parking to allow for 2 units as opposed to 1? And I believe that we do have that parking, and that's why we're requesting your permission, because this seems to be like an appropriate location, to have a 2-family as opposed to a single family. By keeping it a single family, you're actually more, inconsistent with the business, neighborhood business zoning that applies in that area. And we do have, it's large enough to accommodate 2 apartments, and it can provide for the parking. And you've got business uses all around it. So I would submit that there's nothing that we're proposing that is detrimental in any way, really, to anybody, or certainly not. It's actually more consistent with the zoning as a 2-family than as a single family, and that's
Mr.
why
Chairman?
we're seeking your approval by way of a special permit, which is what the bylaw allows, and that's what we're asking for.
Thanks. Was that Mr. Berger?
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, Mr. Yeomans. Sorry.
Yes, if you look at that house and you look across the street, there are some older multifamily, not newly built,
That's correct.
that are along the opposite side of the street. So there are multifamilies in the area. There are 2 families in the area. And I don't think that this is in any way more detrimental to that neighborhood. I think that, it's a logical extension for this property in my mind.
And I think from my standpoint, a lot of this was, I think, getting us back to where we were at the last meeting. And I think we had a few things that we wanted follow-ups on, but I think you had to because of the time, you were forced to kind of drag us back through to, I think, where we landed at the last meeting, or at least my understanding of the situation at the last meeting. Is there any further comments or questions from the board?
Just one more.
That's what you said last time.
No, I just I'm trying to get a hold of it. One last question for Bob Berger. Bob, if we grant this, it becomes a 2-family or a duplex?
Those are the same.
So-
2-family and duplex are the same.
So
but,
each side could be sold?
Well, we don't talk about ownership, because then if you do that, it's going to turn into a condominium. So that's kind of a different story, but a 2-family in a condo, they can be the same. But you're just granting it for the use. The owner's still going to have to pull some building permits to satisfy the building code to convert the single family into a duplex.
Okay, and the other 2 houses, one on each side of them, could apply for the same thing to us, which isn't the end of the world, because across the street, there's all kinds of apartments and...
Sure.
Okay.
All right. If there's no further.
Yeah, if I could, I would say that I agree with everything that Mr. Berger has indicated, but that our intent basically is to keep it, as a rental property with 2 units, and we're not pursuing any sort of condominium. That's not the plan. Somebody else could do that, certainly, if they wanted to down the road, but they could do that to the building across the street or the building next door, or anything else. But that's not what we're requesting at this point, or what our intention is. But in that case, you'd still have 2 units, just 2 different owners. But in this case, we're looking for 2 units with 1 owner.
All right, thank you. Anything else from the board. Is there anyone from the public would like to comment? Can you see it?
Nobody's raising their hands.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody's raising their hands on the attendees.
Okay. So if there's no comment from the public, would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on case number 884, 147 Main Street.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Take a roll call vote on that. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
and
Hold on, who did we,
that's exactly what
hold
I
on,
was
I have the minutes up.
going to
Bear
ask.
with me one
I'm
second.
the voting member.
Okay, it's Peter.
Yeah, it's Peter.
Yes.
All right, chairman votes yes. So the public hearing is closed on case 884. At this time, I'd entertain a motion for.
Oh, hang on, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Can we talk about findings?
Oh, he's gotta talk about findings.
So I've crafted the following findings for this case. Finding F1, the structure was built in 1920. F2, the parcel's in the neighborhood zoning district. Finding 3, the current use is single-family residence. Finding 4, single-family residence are not allowed or not an allowed use in the neighborhood zoning district. Based on findings F1 through F4, the current use is a non-conforming use. F5, the proposed use in two-family residence. F6, the neighborhood consists of primarily residential uses, and I think that's a true statement. The parcel has at least, finding F7, the parcel has at least 6 parking spaces accessible via a shared driveway. Finding 8, the grant of driveway easement provides for the shared access in perpetuity. Based on findings F5 through F8, the proposed addition is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. Finding F9, the lot is in the water supply protection overlay district. Finding 10, the change will result in a 0% increase above what was existing on the site as of the date of enactment of the WSPOD, which was May 1989. And based on findings F9 to F10, the proposed change is within the 50% increase allowed in the WSPOD and will not be more detrimental to the supply and quality of groundwater than the existing use. Anything I forgot or anything anyone objects to there? I think it's fairly straightforward.
Mr. Chair, I think
Mr. Yeomans.
I think the applicant is going to have to sign those documents as a matter of record, I believe.
What documents?
The plan and the easement.
Only if we make them Exhibit A. Only if we make them exhibit to the decision and we file it with the decision.
Okay. Thank you.
But that's, if you wanna make that part of the decision or not, that's your call. Or whoever makes the motion to grant it, if they wanna make that add that into the motion to make those exhibits part of the decision.
I mean, the easement's recorded.
Correct.
I don't know that it needs to be added to the special permit.
I agree, and it's a submittal in the record of this case. So I
Right.
think that's sufficient. I think when we get into signing something is when we say that they have we're giving them a special permit to build whatever per some drawing, and then that's when we want them to sign that that's the drawing that's I don't even know if that's the case here.
The only thing I was thinking of, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Yeomans.
and I agree with the comments that have just been made. The only thing I was thinking of, if they wanted to expand the paved area because it's in the water supply overlay district, then they would have to apply for a permit to do so. Is that correct, Mr. Berger?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing they're permitted to do is
If
What's
they-
there?
use it as a two-family.
Yeah, if they make the driveway bigger in any way, they have to go through highway and they have to get a certified plot plan showing how they're expanding it, and then they would have to have the calculations on there again with the Water Supply Protection Overlay District.
Well, I don't see them expanding the driveway, but there's the possibility, I think, out back of expanding the parking lot if need be.
It,
And
it's
paving.
fine.
But again, they would
Yeah.
still have to go through highway and get a certified plot plan.
Okay. Okay, fine. Agreed.
Okay. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion. On case
I-
7. Go ahead.
I make a motion that we list the findings as Mr. McCusker has outlined them, and that we grant the special permit to convert a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling into a two-family dwelling with no expansion of the current footprint as listed in the agenda.
Is there a-
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes,
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Special permits granted. Katrina, I always forget, what's the,
So,
Timeline.
I have 20 days. Oh, let me start this again. I have 14 days to get the decision written and submitted to the town clerk. After that, there's a 20-day appeal period. On the 21st day, you can come and pick up the certificate of no appeal. At that time, you need to take it to the Worcester County Registry of Deeds, have it filed, and bring back the filed copy to my attention. When I mail you out a copy of the decision that's been filed with the town clerk, there will be a letter that explains and outlines all of these steps you need to follow. And if you have any questions, you can just give me a call.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is 50 Potter Hill Road.
So I know Elena Desopoulos is here, so I'm gonna allow her to talk. All right, Elena.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So Elena Desopoulos on behalf of the owners of 50 Potter Hill Road. We're looking for the variance of 22 feet. We have 118 feet of lot width where there's 140 feet. We were continued from the last meeting. We submitted draft findings. We were continued to review findings.
So
I gave you a copy of those that I
yeah,
printed up.
I do have those.
Okay.
And this was the case with
The infectious invalidity. Yes.
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 And you're gonna have to, so we do have the submitted draft findings. Was there any questions or comments from the board? I actually don't have my notes from this as to what was open on it.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McCusker?
basically we wanted the findings, right? So
Yep.
this is a very unusual circumstance. If we just took it at face value, there's no way that this board traditionally would have ever granted this variance. But you know, as we I think all understand, there's very special circumstances here, and we basically threw it back to the applicant and the attorney to give us some findings, and they've done that. My opinion on those findings is I like them. I'm actually right now just editing up the motion a little bit, but I'm good with the findings as posed.
Okay, any other commentary from the board?
I am as well. Those, the findings were requested at the initial hearing. They've been provided. And I think based on that, we can move forward on the motion.
Okay,
Is that the findings?
yeah.
I never got a copy.
I'm sorry, Peter.
Well, Peter's reviewing that. Is there any public comment? Anyone online?
If there's anyone online that would like to speak regarding 50 Potter Hill Road, can you raise your hand? Nope. They all must be for something else.
All right, so at this time, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing on case number 886 for 50 Potter Hill Road.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Do a roll call vote. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Ms. Biswas.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. The public hearing is closed. This time I'd entertain a motion on case number 886.
Mr. Chairman.
McCusker. Mr. McCusker.
I move that the zoning board of appeals grant a variance to Stephen and Georgette LeMay at 50 Potter Hill Road to allow a lot width of 118 feet where 140 feet is required, providing 22 feet of relief.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Do a roll call vote. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Ms. Biswas.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Variance is granted. Case number 886, 50 Potter Hill Road.
So, Elena, if you were listening on the last one, I have 14 days to get the decision written, signed, and filed with the town clerk. Once it's been filed with the town clerk, there's a 20-day appeal period. On that 21st day, you or the applicant needs to come into the town clerk, pick up that decision, take it to the Worcester Registry of Deeds, have it filed, and bring a filed copy back to me for our files. And all this will be put in a letter when I mail out a copy of the signed decision.
Okay.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is the only new case tonight, special permit, case number 887 for 1 Martin Drive. The way we will proceed this evening on this case is that the clerk will read the petition and the petitioner will have the opportunity to present their case. Petitioner will have 15 minutes to present. The petitioner shall present the required information and all comments should be specific. Excuse me. The opposition will also have 15 minutes to speak. These time limits will be extended only with the consent of the board. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or in opposition to the petition will then have an opportunity to do so. Letters received in favor of or in opposition to the petition will be read into the meeting record. If you wish to speak, state your name and address for the record. The board may ask questions from time to time. However, all conversation should be directed through the chair. After all evidence is presented, the board will enter into discussion and render a decision. At any time during this hearing and prior to a decision being made by this board, the petitioner has the option to request that the petition be withdrawn without prejudice or continued to a later date, at which time the petitioner could provide additional information favorable to the petitioner. So at this time, I would ask Ms. Reed to read the special permit application or petition.
The Grafton Board of Appeals has received a petition from Norman Geary for 1 Martin Drive requesting that the Zoning Board of Appeals grant a special permit to allow a replacement of the aluminum awning over the front steps with a new wood awning that will be 24 feet off the front setback on a pre-existing non-conforming structure. The board will conduct a public hearing on August 4th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in Conference Room A at the Municipal Center, 30 Providence Road, Grafton, Massachusetts, to consider this request. Zoning Board of Appeals, Brian Waller, Chairman, Kay Reed, Clerk, Bill Yeoman, Member, Bill McCusker, Member, Peter Adams, Alternate, and Matali Biswas, Alternate.
Thank you. So at this time, I entertain a motion to open the public hearing on case number 887 for 1 Martin Hill Drive.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Do a roll call vote. Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans?
Yes.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
And we'll appoint Ms. Biswas for this
Yes.
case. Who votes
Sure.
yes? Chairman votes yes. So the public hearing is now open. So with that, I'll turn it over to the petitioner, Mr. Geary.
Mr. Chairman, just I guess I was going to say a point of order.
Yes.
To Katrina, I'd like to clarify the case number for this case, and the reason I'm asking is because the proposed, the motion that we just made on Potter Hill Road has a case number of 886 at the top of it. And it seems like the legal notice I'm reading is also identifying this case on Martin Drive as case 886.
So that was a
Can we
typo.
clarify what case number?
This is 887. Because of the way I type it up, I just forgot to change that. But the legal notice that was posted in the Grafton News said 887. I have to type 2 different legal notices, one that gets mailed out and one that gets published because of the cost of publishing. It is actually 887.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry about that.
All right, sorry for the interruption.
All right. Mr. Geary.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Evening.
So we have a home that was built on a small dead-end street, 1955-ish, and we're looking to replace the awning over the front steps landing with something that is more aesthetically appealing to my wife. So we want to take that old piece of aluminum off the front and extend a roof feature, if you will, out a few feet to cover the front steps a little bit more completely, if you will, and just improve the aesthetic appearance. But primarily, it's just to really make sure there's no snow on the front steps for safety purposes. And when we looked into doing so, we learned that the front of the house was already 1 or 2 feet too close to the street. And in doing any modification over the front steps, we would probably be a little bit closer. So the permit process that started at my own fault probably 9 months ago has led us to an appeals hearing to see if we can finally get a permit going to put an awning over the steps. Yes, there you go. Thank you very much. So you can see that little piece of aluminum over the front steps that has been my wife's nemesis for 20 years since we lived here. And what we want to do is take that roof feature the triangle and bring it out a couple of feet in place of that with a couple of lights maybe or something. I don't know, just to cover the front steps a little bit better. That's pretty much the summary of where we're at. I wish my lawn looked that green today.
All right, is there any comment from the board?
I have a question,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Yeomans?
Yes. Just so I understand that the aluminum is coming off and you're going to extend the gable end that exists out to the edge of the top platform of the steps. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
And it's not your intent to put new steps or make that wider? It's just.
We are not putting any new steps on the front of the house, not at all.
I say based on the fact that, you know, your wife has put up with this for 20 years, must add something to it, you know.
Thank you.
So the width isn't changing, the gable end is going to be similar to that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm kind of relying a little bit on the contractor to make it look pretty, but we don't want to change the pitch of the roof. We would interfere with the gutters. So we can't make it wider or it wouldn't drain.
That's the only question I have. Thank you.
Okay. Was there any comment from?
No, the only two comments I received was the fire department and the Board of Health, and neither of them had any comments at this time.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? I can't see everybody.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry, here, I'll stop sharing. There you go.
Oh, Mr. McCuss. Oh, sorry, Ms. Biswas.
Well, I just had a very quick question. Are there going to be pillars coming down to support the triangle, or is the triangle portion just coming out?
The engineered drawing that we had designed has supports coming back into the house diagonally to hold it up.
Okay.
With no footings, no excavation or anything. There's a gas line and a water line right next to the stairs. So I can't put helical piers or footings in underneath.
Okay.
So they're coming back into the front of the house, if you will, diagonally, as in the engineered drawing submitted for the permit.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Yeomans.
Yes, then we'll need the engineered drawings that would be provided. Katrina, I believe that this should be made a matter of the record. These two engineered drawings. This is the engineered drawing that clearly speaks to what you're going to do in the front. And this shows the setbacks. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Careful with those. Those cost me thousands of dollars. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McCusker.
So, and forgive me if this is already stated, the drawing from, I think it's Norman Hill, indicated something is 24 feet off of the front lot line. Is that the existing and the proposed, or
I don't know the exact measurement. I know existing, it was a couple feet too close to the street to facilitate just a straight permit being issued. So we had to apply for a pre-existing non-conforming variance. I don't know if the existing aluminum counts as that distance or not. We're just looking to cover the front landing, you know.
Maybe Katrina could pull that up.
I'm working on it right now. Give me 1 sec.
Well, actually, along those lines, is the new
Awning.
awning, is that going to extend beyond where the aluminum
No.
is?
Or-
No, I believe that is, they're the same. It just covers
No.
the landing right now.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
this
Berger?
is Mr. Berger. I don't know if any of us can make that statement. All right. On the, I'm trying to find the page.
That's a good point.
A5, it's showing that the new roof is going to come out 4 feet. I don't know if that's 4 feet. The old awning.
Yeah, I don't know the measure of the old one myself, to be honest.
I understand that, but that's what the discussion is right now with the board. I thought I had it.
It does say 4x6 metal awning.
Okay, then the answer is yes.
Over the concrete steps to replace with a porch roof, the same size.
Metal awning over concrete steps to replace with a porch. Existing 4x6. All right, so it's 4x6, and if you look at the structural plans, Katrina, you can pull those up, and I'm pretty sure that it's showing 2 sections of 2 feet. I'm not having a good time reading it because it's kind of blurry on mine. Maybe it's better on yours, Katrina. Nope, that's not the page I'm looking for.
Hold on. I have this page.
You know what? I might even have it in viewpoint, and I might be able to pull the whole thing right up.
This is everything I have.
Yeah, that's it right there. Now, can you read those 2 numbers in the middle where it says right? Does that say 2-2?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then
Looks like 4. Yeah.
then that's 4 feet. So the answer is yes. It's an exact replacement from the metal to this one.
I'm pretty sure the concrete is only 4 feet, the landing off the house. Pretty sure that's what it is.
All right.
Yeah, over on the right there.
I'm
That's
gonna-
what we're looking to achieve. Right.
Is there any one online, any public comment?
I can see. Is there anyone online of the attendees wanting to speak on behalf of 1 Martin Drive? Please raise your hand. Nope.
Okay. Or in opposition to?
Or in opposition to. Anyone to speak at all on 1
Yeah,
Martin
there you
Drive? How's that? Nope, there's no comment.
Okay.
Nobody.
Is there anyone else from the board have any comments? So, I guess my question for Mr. Berger, if it is an exact replacement, does it need a special permit?
It does, because what you had there was just a metal awning that you would buy at any hardware store and attach it to the building. And this is now a permanent structure.
Right.
So, but I just want to show the board, Katrina, can I borrow the screen for a second?
Yeah, hold on.
What's there now is definitely not structural.
There you
I
go.
know.
Just old snow. It keeps
So-
rain off the.
Mr. Chair, when I started this plan review, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
There's the plan I started with.
Yep.
So with looking at the metal awning based with, excuse me, with this plan, clearly there's a difference between that little metal thing that you would buy at Ace Hardware and something permanent that's coming out of the building.
Right. I totally agree with you on that. But I guess my question is it more non-conforming?
We don't have that in our bylaw. I'm gonna stop the share.
Isn't it just about the setback though?
That structure that was on, in my opinion, that structure that was on the building was not really part of the building. It's probably held up by 2 screws. And when was that put up?
Yeah.
When was that put up? I don't know.
Probably 1960, by the looks of it, and the mildew on it.
Sure. And the building was built in 1955. So that, you know, I don't really want to get into, is it over 6 years or over 10 years? My opinion, that it needed to come in front of here to get a building permit.
Yeah, I mean, he's extending, altering, or modifying a pre-existing non-conforming structure. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, the idea of making it more non-conforming, that got into the whole discussion for a while. They needed a variance, and then they didn't need a variance. I think this week they don't need a variance. You know, but you know, making no changes to the non-conformity, you're still, you know, modifying it, which is, you know, what's happening here. Altering or modifying.
Gotcha. All right. If there's no further comment from the board, we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on case number 887 for 1 Martin Drive.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Ms. Bizwas.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. The public hearing's closed on case number 887. This time I'd entertain a motion regarding the special permit for case number 887. Mr.
Drawing
McCusker.
findings.
I think we do the
Can we
finding.
do findings?
He usually goes through the findings before he does the motion, but that's your call.
So I think we
Well,
should do them after, actually. And we can talk about that after, but I think I think the findings support the decision.
Yeah, so I think we should, and this really goes all the way back to Roger Homan when we first started doing this. I mean, Roger's point, and I think it's valid, was how can you vote for or against if you haven't established that you've met the required findings, right? So the statute requires certain findings. You know, for us to say yes or no, we should, you know, establish that we have those findings before we vote on the motion. So that's why we've been doing it that way. It's your call. Do it any way you want, but that, I think that was Roger's point. I think it made sense, and that's what we've been doing since then.
I guess is it pre-deciding?
Well, because you have to prove it's pre-existing non-conforming, and that's what the findings are proving.
Well, and also that, you know, it's not more detrimental to the neighborhood, et cetera. I mean, yeah, quite frankly, it is pre-deciding. And that's what, you know, that's what we should be deciding on, is those findings. I mean, you know, according to 48 Section 6 and our bylaw, right, we have to, the special permit can be granted in that, with these specific findings. So, yeah, no, I that's my thinking.
So
is we need the findings first. How? So
let's continue with that. And and this, I don't think this is a controversial case, anyways.
Yep.
So, do you want to whip through the findings? Did you do those as we went?
Yep, I've got them. So, finding F1, the structure was built in 1955. Finding F2, the parcel is located in the R20 zoning district. I just misnumbered something here, so this is a bit of a problem. So finding F3, the R20 zone requires 30-foot front yard setback, and the structure is located 24 feet off the front yard setback. That's number 3. Number 4, the R20 zone requires a 15-foot side yard setback, and the structure is located 10 feet 7 inch off the side lot line. So based on findings F1 through F4, the current structure is a pre-existing non-conforming structure. Finding F5, the current use is a single-family residence, and my screen just went black on me. Finding 6, the proposed use. The current use is current use single-family residence. 6 is the proposed use is a single-family residence. Finding 7 is that there will be no interior changes to the structure. Finding 8 is that the neighborhood consists primarily of primarily residences. So based on findings F5 through S8, the proposed addition is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. What I don't know is in the WSPOD, and I think the answer to that one is no, but
It is, Bill, it is no. It is no.
It is no? Okay, so then all that stuff goes away. So that's our findings.
And I think we need to add the reference to the documents.
Again, that would be on...
A submittal?
Motion.
No, that would be on the motion.
Okay.
All right, so this time. So this time I'd entertain a motion regarding case number 887 for 1 Martin Drive.
I make a motion that we incorporate the findings that Mr. McCusker has outlined, and for the case number 887, 1 Martin Drive, a special permit for the replacement of the front awning over stairs on a pre-existing non-conforming structure as shown in the exhibits A and exhibit B. So based on the findings outlined by Mr. McCusker and adding exhibit A and exhibit B, my motion is as I've indicated.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote. Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans?
Yes.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Biswas?
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. The special permit's granted.
So Norman, if you heard me in the last 2 cases, I have 14 days to get the decision signed and filed with the town clerk. After it is filed with the town clerk, there's a 20-day appeal period. On the 21st day, you need to come into the town clerk's office, pick up the certified no appeal, take it to the Worcester County Registry of Deeds and file it, and then bring a copy back to me. I will outline all of that in a letter when I send you a copy of the filed decision. Okay?
Awesome. Thanks,
And,
Katrina.
I
Appreciate all of your help.
I just need you to come by, if not tomorrow, just one day next week to sign the 2 exhibits that become part of the decision, okay?
Sure.
Okay.
You bet.
Thanks, Norm.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you all very much for your time.
Are you gonna put the awning on the back door?
I know. Maybe I'll keep it. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's an eBay relic or something. I don't know. All right.
All right,
Well,
thank you.
thank you all so much for your time. Appreciate it very much. Am I done here?
You're all done, Norman. You can go now.
Awesome. All right. Take
night.
care. Have a great evening, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
So 2 items left on the agenda, the minutes, which we can do next, or last.
Yeah, I've got it. I'll just grab them off the printer. So just give me 1 second. I just got to go grab minutes.
But, Bill, do you want to provide an update on High Point and
Yeah, sure.
what's up with Fisherville?
Yeah, so let's talk about High Point first. I think as everyone recalls, they came to us asking for us to essentially sign that the project was complete and release the surety. We denied that request. They appealed that to the Housing Appeals Committee. It was decided, and it's really the way the Housing Appeals Committee does it. First step is to go to mediation, and all parties have agreed. We'll go to mediation. That's likely to happen sometime in September. And they've also engaged the neighbor on Lot 76 as I don't know, an interested party or whatever they want to call it, but they're also involved in the whole mediation process. So that's going to happen sometime in September. Presumably, it'll actually happen at Town Hall. And at this point, I think we're just waiting for the date. In the past, we did mediation for Prentice Place. It was attended on the part of Grafton by Dan Hill, obviously, and the town administrator and the chairman of the select board, and I think myself and Mary Ann DeRosiers, 2 representatives of the CBA. I think a similar approach would be, actually Joe Layden was there as well. I think a similar approach will be taken this time. I think, Evan plans to attend. Obviously, Dan Hill will attend. I think he was going to check with the select board to see if they want to attend. I would like to attend assuming the board would have me attend. And I think if we want to have one other person attend, then that can happen. What we don't want to do is get a full quorum, and we actually could do that if we wanted to, but we haven't in the past, and I quite frankly don't think it's really necessary. Just 1 or 2 of us to report back, what comes out of mediation. So, at this point, I think maybe a little feedback on whether anyone else wants to attend, if we want to have someone else attend, if we're okay with having me attend. I mean, if the board doesn't want me to be there, then I won't be there. But I'm planning to, assuming the board would have me.
Yeah, and I'm absolutely comfortable with Bill representing the board, but I'm perfectly happy leaving it to Bill. But if there's anyone else on the board that would like to attend, I would say I agree, probably limit it to 1 member. But if there's
So,
interest,
and that's fine, I think that's about it on that. Really, nothing else has happened other than the fact that the parties have agreed to mediation, and it looks like that'll happen in September. So we'll see where it goes from there. Any other questions or comments with respect to High Point?
No, I think, Mr. Chair,
Mr. Yeomans.
I think Mr. McCusker will represent the vision of the board and the knowledge of the board quite well. He's been with this project since its infancy, I believe, and he will represent the board well with his knowledge of the project. I'd be happy to attend if they want a second one there, but I don't really see any need to burden Mr. McCusker with another point of view at the meeting.
But quite frankly, it's a long, boring day.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Okay, thank you. Appreciate the kind words. Brian, should I move on to Fisherville?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Fisherville, that's the development off of Main Street in South Grafton. I think we're all aware that they came to us a while back when there was problems with the developer basically ignoring the start time of 7 a.m. They were coming in early and that sort of thing. Bob actually issued a cease and desist, which they promptly ignored. And, I think we made it clear that we weren't going to budge on the 7 a.m. time. Since then, in the last, I'll say, month or so, there's been more instances of various contractors showing up before 7 a.m. I was just driving by one day out of the blue. I think it was around 6:45, and sure enough, there's a couple of trucks there and guys getting out, getting ready to work. I think another cease and desist was issued. Simultaneous to all of this, they really got started with construction without having the proper surety in place that they should have had in place. And Dan has been working with them to get the surety in place, but, as of right now, it still is not there. And so Bob did issue another cease and desist letter to them, I don't know, a week or so ago, and cited the start times, cited the surety. And then as if we weren't having enough issues down there, it came to the attention of someone somewhere that the 36-inch pipe, drainage pipe that was supposed to be installed by the developer under Main Street, going from the project entrance, basically over towards South Grafton Elementary School, where it's supposed to tie into an existing pipe, and then I think it runs under the playground and to the railroad tracks down at South Grafton. But like 1,000 feet of 36-inch pipe, if I remember correctly, was supposed to be installed by the developer in Main Street. And because of the Main Street reconstruction project, there was an opportunity for the developer to take advantage of the fact that there already were going to be digging up the street and replacing the 18-inch pipe that was there. Well, the developer did none of that. And Mass DOT and or its developer, did what they were supposed to do. And they replaced the drainage pipe, the 18-inch one that was there, with another 18-inch one. And then to make matters worse, the developer came along and tied in his drainage into that pipe. Jeff Walsh, has issued a letter. I think everyone has been given a copy of that letter, basically citing this as a problem. There was a meeting. There was a meeting internally earlier in the week to kind of go over and make sure everyone understood things. There was a meeting today with the developer, and the developer was citing things along the lines of, well, we were going to do it, but Mass DOT went and changed it to an 18-inch pipe without telling us. But then the developer also was saying, Mass DOT said a 36-inch pipe wouldn't fit, things along those lines. And they continue to say that it's okay to have trucks and arrive before 7 a.m., just to kind of rub salt in the wounds, I think. The bottom line is, after today's meeting, Dan Hill was pretty insistent that we need much better communication first and foremost. We should have known a long time ago that there was a problem with the drainage as designed. And, they didn't say anything until Jeff Walsh wrote his letter. So Dan was very insistent on that, and really was insistent on wanting from them a summary of what they're doing to address this. Now, during the meeting, they did say that they're looking at all options, right, whatever that may be. But, we're kind of really want almost daily updates from them with respect to what they're doing to address this. I voiced that I thought the project should be stopped because of this. My biggest concern is that, if they can't solve this problem, they may need to reduce the impervious surface, reduce units, reduce the impervious surface. Maybe they have to lose a number of units up on the hill to build detention ponds or something up there, or whatever it is, Coltex or whatever, to deal with the drainage. But I wanted the project stopped. And, I think Dan and others decided that, no, that's not necessarily the way to go. One thing that Dan did say to us is, it's one thing to issue a cease and desist. The developers just flat out ignored those. Unfortunately, we have no way to enforce that. We don't have Bob does not have the ability to levy fines. So really the only thing we can do to enforce is to go into court and seek an injunction from the courts. And Dan was pretty clear that, the court's really going to want to know that you guys have done everything you can to resolve this outside of the courts. So I think that's what Dan is trying to do, is give them time. That's why we had this meeting. We've said we want, updates, almost daily updates. So I think Dan's basically giving them the opportunity to address this before we go in and seek a more permanent, injunction to stop them. I think that's about it. I didn't necessarily take good notes. Bob was there in the meeting. I put Bob on the hot seat a little bit and asked if I said anything wrong or if there's anything else that you want to add to it, anything I forgot.
No, you hit it right on the head. And if they don't produce the reports in detail that Dan is looking for or Dan's satisfied with, then we're going to go to the next step. With Bill, I wanted to go to the next step today, but I was advised, no, we're gonna give them a little bit of time, a day, 2 days, the beginning of next week. If we don't get the information that we need or we're satisfied with it, then we're gonna go to the next step and get an injunction and stop the whole project. They're not gonna get any building permits from me. They're looking for building permits right now. They're looking for an electrical permit to put in some underground piping. They're not getting that. And they're looking prematurely, of course, for their building permit for their model house. And flat, no, you're not getting that. So, with the phasing, they can't go past where they are right now anyways, because they only have the little cul-de-sac that they can go around, and they can't go more up the hill. That's why Dan said, no, we're gonna give them a day and see what they come back with. And that's the report that I can give this board.
Mr. Chair.
One thing before we go to Ms. Yeoman, I just want to add, with respect to the surety, I think that the lawyers, Dan and the applicant's lawyer, have worked that issue out, and I think it may be just a paperwork issue right now. So I think that issue is going to get resolved. I just wanted to throw that out there, and I want to leave that out, hanging out there as an unresolved issue.
That's good. Mr. Yeomans.
Yes, I have one question and a point to make. An injunction. What is the time frame to prepare and to seek an injunction and to get an injunction for something such as this?
Dan can just run into court and get the injunction. It's an emergency injunction.
Okay.
So I don't think it's a 2-week deal. I think he just goes in and files, and he goes in front of a judge because it's an emergency.
Okay, thank you for that. And one additional point. I spent some time thinking back on, and I think Bill and Kay and Peter can attest to this, and I think, Brian, you were involved in some of it also. The amount of time that was spent listening to the off-site drainage issues for this place. And I recall they were before us, I think maybe a couple of years ago, when they sought to eliminate the plan that was put in place. And we voted against that. And we said that, in order to do that, that would be a major change. And it would require, as I recall, a filing. So in looking at at some of the meetings and looking at some of the documents that we have, it just seems to me that they've just ignored totally and have what they had sought to do by eliminating the initial plan, and we refused to do it, and it went forward with the plan for the 30-inch pipe. So it seems to me that, in my opinion, that it's just very blatant. And the biggest concern that's been expressed by the neighbors in the surrounding area and the neighbors on Main Street has been the drainage and the drainage issues. And that's what we as a board, as I best recall, focused a tremendous amount of attention with Graves Engineering and with their engineers to come up with a plan that we as a board felt that would be most accommodating to the neighborhood and eliminate the very, very large concern they had with drainage from this site. And the initial work that they did on the site, they proved by not having the proper bales in place to deal with the drainage. I mean, Main Street looked like a dirt road at that period of time. So, you know, I'm totally, you know, convinced that it was not just an oversight, that they just decided that they could get away with this. And I think that to do anything less than what is on the plan is, to me, totally unacceptable. And, you know, whatever we have to do to ensure that is followed, I think is very important. And Bill, as you bring up the point, if the only way around it is to reduce the number of units in that's an alternative. But that would require a totally, you know, a total new engineering plan to discuss, you know, those issues. So, you know, I think that I'm glad that you're having the meetings and that, Bob, you attended. And when I just reviewed, you know, today, I said, I just remember I think it was Steve, you know, Cornell, who was the engineer, and we just spent a ton of time. And I think the neighbors turned out, and as I best recall, that they had a lot of comment about drainage in this. So it's a big issue, and I think it's got to be fixed, you know, properly. Thank you.
Yeah, and I did make that point during today's discussion that, you know, the neighbors were, that was their number one issue, you know, and that they were there for just about every meeting. Steve O'Connell was on the meeting today, and he did point out there's, in addition to tying in that drainage pipe, in addition to the 36-inch, the new 36-inch pipe in Main Street, there was also something just, I want to say upstream from the project location with a diverting pipe or something like that, that they initially tried to remove, if you remember when they did the notice project change a couple of years ago, and the board objected and Steve put it back. Steve said that has all been done. And really the only thing that hasn't been done, this plan, is the pipe under Main Street. But, you know, I don't need to minimize that. That's obviously a very substantial problem. And you're correct, Bill, that there was a lot of time spent on drainage, and you know, no doubt that there will be an NPC coming to this board once they decide what they want to do instead of this 36-inch pipe in Main Street, and we'll have plenty of time to rehash it all again. But you know, until that point in time, we're kind of in that waiting mode to see what they want to do.
And how did this come to?
So I was just going to tell you that. So Paul Canoyer came to me the week of like July 10th, 11th. He wanted to know if I had minutes or notes from the pre-construction meeting in September of last year, because in that pre-construction meeting, they were told they needed to contact the contractor for the Main Street construction project for that drain. And I did have the notes, and I forwarded them to Paul. Paul came in the following day, and I do have an email dated July 13th that Paul basically said they never reached out to the contractor, they never had any discussion on it, and they just tied into the 18-inch drain. And they're past that street. They're halfway down past it, past St. James Church and down past Ferry Street. So that's how it came to light. Then I informed, I think, Dan and Bill of that. And then we asked Jeff to review everything. And then that's when we got the report from Jeff. And Dan was on vacation last week, so it kind of sat just because he was on vacation. And then when he came back on Monday, we had a meeting of Bob, Bill, myself, and Dan and Evan and Jeff to go through it. But Paul Knoyer was off today and tomorrow. So he's going to write everything up for me and get it to me on Monday as to everything that transpired. But he said as far as he knew, there was no conversation. There was no correspondence back and forth regarding that 18-inch pipe. And that 18-inch pipe had been planned. I mean, if you've driven down Main Street in the past 3 months, that 18-inch pipe was laid out all along the street. Like, it wasn't a surprise. How could you have driven by there and not seen that 18-inch pipe and know it wasn't a 36-inch or a 24-inch pipe? For them to say, oh, well, we went to connect it on July 8th, they changed it. And that's what they were saying. So,
Mr. Chair, let me add to that,
Mr.
if you
Berger,
don't mind.
please.
Okay. So when I got information from Katrina, and I knew that this was going to come to a head, I got on the phone with Mr. Walsh, and him and I had this conversation on what is this going to really do to the project. And he had huge concerns that this is going to just take the project and make it not feasible. So I asked Jeff on Friday, I said, Jeff, look, we're going to have a meeting with these guys. So I need this memo from you ASAP, because without that memo, this is not going to go forward. So Jeff worked very diligently on that memo, got it to us. And Jeff's memo is really what drove the entire meeting. I mean, the other stuff with, contractors showing up early, that's kind of mishigas. And the surety, that's kind of taken care of, but that's not really the big issue. The entire issue that we're all talking about now, not just this board, but everybody in town hall, is that 36-inch pipe. And on the 100-year storm, it doesn't even have to be a 100-year storm. We could get a thunderstorm right now, drop maybe 2-3 inches of rain, and it could overflow that 30. And now the 18, and it's just going to bubble up right onto Main Street. So I think without that memo from Jeff, kudos that he gave it to us on time, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation today. That's how bad his memo is telling us the project is gone downhill.
Mr. Yeomans.
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
Yeomans. It brings to mind something we have to address in any future projects, and that is the oversight of the communications that is taking place between, the town and their engineers. That's a separate issue. In my opinion, if the developer feels that this is adequate, we have no other choice but to seek an injunction and put a stop to the project. And the alternative to be thought about and to offer is that, perhaps the way you've mishandled your engineering end of it would accommodate 25 duplexes versus 50 that are presently planned. And in order for those 25 to even be justified, we'll request and demand a total re-engineering of that project. As Bill pointed out, perhaps there's another way to do it. And, it's just almost beyond belief that it's gotten to this point with the amount of time that we've spent on the water issues over the years. So that's it.
Yep. All right. Anyone else?
Is there a timetable? Did anybody know when the contractor on Main Street was going to start paving? Was that brought up at all?
no.
No?
I could ask Paul when I talk to him Monday if he knows. But that's the other issue, is if it doesn't get fixed, once that road's paved with that final top coat, you can't open it for 5 years unless there's an emergency.
Well, you can if you regrind the
Well,
whole
that's
thing
just
and
it. Yes.
repave the whole thing. And I
Edge
don't
to
think they
edge.
want to do that
Edge to
either,
edge,
so
you would
they
have to
might
redo
think
it.
twice.
Yeah, exactly.
In,
Exactly.
in driving by
Peter,
there.
one thing, Peter, one other thing that came out was the Mass DOT or their contractor said there isn't enough room in the road to put a 36-inch pipe. Now, I think what that means is that other laterals for other utilities, et cetera, are in the way, but, anything can be done. But they're basically saying at this point that there's no room in that to, redo all the utilities under that road to accommodate the 36-inch pipe would be cost prohibitive. And I'm sure it would be.
Who did Mass
Again, that doesn't.
Who did Mass DOT say that to?
Well, okay, that's what the developer is saying they were told, right? So I think at some point we're going to get a lot more of these details.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I look forward to you questioning them on that. But for now, that's one of the things that they're saying. It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't just because you can't do it doesn't mean you don't have to do it. I mean, something's got to get rid of that water.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Yeomans.
I drive by there frequently. I live in South Grafton, and I drive by that frequently. And coming in today from 146 and coming through there, that's blocked off. I mean, they've got the sidewalk work when they're dropping in the curbings. So I mean, they're going to be paving, I think, relatively soon, and they'll start paving from that end. And that's not going to, I don't think, be very far off into the future.
Yep. All right. So
Let's make sure we get that bond pretty quick.
I'm supposed to get it. I mean, the issue was they were trying to put an effective date on the bond, and Dan's like, no, we've never had an effective date. And they were trying to say that their bank, that's the way they issue it, and it can be renewed. And so that was one of the sticking points. So I haven't gotten
not
any
an
emails.
expiration.
An expiration date. I'm sorry, an expiration date on the bond. So that was the one sticking point. So, and Dan's like, we've never had expiration dates, and the ones I have, and like, well, that's what our bank does. So I know that was one of the sticking points why I haven't gotten the bond. But I haven't seen any emails in the last couple of weeks, so I know they've been going back and forth between Dan and their attorney, and I haven't been CC'd on them, so I'm just not sure where it stands. But that Dan said that is getting finalized soon.
And this 36-inch pipe must be figured in with that bond.
Well, there's two bonds that has to be we're supposed to receive per the comprehensive permit. One is the site disturbance bond, because that goes back to the one development back behind Ferry Street where they tore up the hill and then walked away and we didn't have a bond on it.
Yeah.
So one is the site disturbance bond, and then the other one is the infrastructure bond. So those are the two bonds I'm waiting on.
All right. Anyone have any comments on the minutes? Or edits, I should say.
I don't have a copy electronically that I can find, and I don't know, maybe they were sent to me by paper, but I don't have the minutes to review. Which ones are we supposed to be reviewing?
616. I did send them when I sent you guys all the link to the meeting, and I asked if anybody wanted hard copies of anything, and nobody responded. But I can send them right now if you just give me 1 sec.
Good night, zoning board.
Can we push them off a week?
Night, Bob.
Yeah.
Can we push them off a week?
We can push them off a week. It's your call. That's fine with me.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Well, no,
Okay.
it's not.
Did you say you're gonna resend them?
Yeah, we're gonna table them, and I'll resend them to you guys tomorrow, and you can take a look at them.
Yeah, email is fine too. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So I do not have a case right now, but I have been talking to a woman who is going to be submitting something to me Monday, Tuesday next week. Also, Craftsman Court wants to come before us with the approval with the final as-built. They sent me the stuff in June and never requested anything, so I finally emailed them like, what do you want me to do with, well, I want to come before the board. I said, well, I need a letter from Jeff. So I'm sure that got pushed aside with everything right now going on with Fisherville. So those two things would be on the next agenda, whenever you guys, if you want to set an agenda. Set a meeting, I'm sorry.
Well, I think
Unless you want to wait till I get that case in and then I email you guys for a date. I mean, it's your call.
Well, what?
that's my recommendation, is that we wait until we have a case and then
Okay.
do it by email.
Okay.
That's my recommendation. I don't know how others feel.
What's the date? Today's the 4th.
Today's August 4th.
And assuming you get it Monday, we would need within 45 days.
No, 65.
Oh,
So we would have till October. August, September. Yeah, October. Middle of October.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Yeomans.
and if anything comes up relative to Fisherville Terrace, that could be an emergency request, I would assume, from you for the board to meet to hear any development that requires action by us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we just want to say tentatively the 22nd of September? Just as a placeholder?
It's up to you.
Sure.
But we'll confirm that by email, so but unless anyone has conflicts that night, we'll.
Yeah, I can tentatively do that, and
I'm open.
We don't need to send out an agenda or anything until we have a
I don't have to send the agenda out till
What day
48
you
hours
think it-
before.
September 22nd.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm open, yep.
Okay. I'll get online and see if I can book conference room, and if there's an issue with that too, we may have to juggle it.
Yeah,
It's no
and-
problem.
I'm just better with something on my calendar than.
Yep. Nope,
and
not a
moving it.
problem. Yep.
I know this is like super far out, but I am not here for the month of November. Just putting that way out there.
Okay.
All right, good to know. Then we'll plan
I'm on
for
vacation.
good. We'll plan for end of October and beginning of December then. All right. So I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Take a roll call vote. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Ms. Biswas,
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Unanimous. We're done.